I really wish that I remember who said this specifically. Building a camera rig is like using Legos for filmmakers. If that doesn't get you excited about building a camera rig, I don't know what does, because I used to love to build things when I was a kid, and this is kind of giving me that same feeling building out this rig. So unless you've been living under a rock, then you may have heard Blackmagic released a new camera last year, Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. I'm just gonna refer to it as the BMPCC4K because it's just so much easier, and really it's just such a long name to say. To walk it back, the BMPCC4K is actually kind of a sequel to the first camera, which was just a total groundbreaking camera for the time that it came out. Really shook up the industry. So when I heard that I could get a camera that shoots in 4K, 60 frames a second, and in RAW, I picked one up. I saw some of the test footage from the BMPCC4K and I really dig that style. So I decided to try it out for myself. I've been playing around with the BMPC for a little bit. I even released a couple of videos here on YouTube using the BMPCC4K, which I didn't really mention a whole lot about, but you can check those videos out here. For this video, I'm gonna be walking through the rig and showing you some really cool things that I added on to my specific setup to get the look that I want. So to give an appropriate tour for this camera, I built a whole setup over here, so let's go to that. So the first thing I'm gonna add is a cage, of course, so we can attach everything to this camera. So I'll start off with a little small rig cage. I decided on the half cage because, So as I was saying, I wanted to put on the half cage instead of a full cage so that I would be able to fit it onto a gimbal a little bit easier. A lot of people complained about the awkward size of this camera and how long it was. They were having trouble getting it onto some gimbals, so I just wanted to have a little bit more flexibility with it by using the half cage right off the start. Next, of course, I have to add a top handle so I can kind of maneuver the camera around. It is a small rig top handle and it slides easily into the NATO rail right on top of the small rig half cage. And to truly demo this thing, I'm gonna go ahead and add my 17mm SLR Magic Cinna lens on it. Next up, and also from small rig, is this little tiny base plate. Now this may look small, but it's a very powerful little base plate that'll support the entire rod system and everything that I have on it. I went through a couple different options before finally finding this one. Saved me a lot of money because this thing was actually only, I think, 20 bucks or somewhere around there, as the one I had before that was somewhere around 150. So this one was definitely a better option for me. For the actual rods themselves, I went with 15mm small rig rods, and I got them in a variety pack I picked up from Adorama. I have that link below you can check out as well, but it came with some spacers and a couple other useful things that I used later in this kit. Now for the battery setup, I decided to go with the V-mount battery. I just felt like I'd get more power out of that, and one in particular that I had heard more about was D&O lighting. I heard these are really great batteries. They have a secondary D-tap point. For the V-mount plate, I used an 8-sin plate, and then I mounted that onto the back of a Convati cheese plate. Finally, I used a Condor Blue D-tap to BMPCC4K external power. So this is actually something that's custom made to go from V-mount batteries to the BMPCC4K. If you're a filmmaker who's serious about shooting on production sets and music video shoots, times that you have to really record for a long time, I definitely recommend looking into an external battery source and definitely looking into some kind of V-mount system like I have here. I also wanted the ability to actually record on a media that could handle that power. So I opted for a Samsung T5 SSD. And for the mounting option, I just went with another small rig because it actually matches onto this half cage perfectly. And I picked this one up on Amazon for about 20 bucks or so. In addition, I picked up a USB-C cable clamp to make sure it doesn't get pulled out while I'm recording. For the follow focus, I wanted to go with something wireless so I could really configure it in any way that I wanted to. So I went with the Nucleus Nano system. I just slide on the motor to the existing rails that I already have set up. And as far as the actual dial, I'll come back to that in a second. Now onto the handle support system. I bought this piece that actually would support a crossbar that I also bought from Small Rig, a 15mm rod, and these two little 1/4-inch plugs that can go on the ends of the rails. I used one of the ends of these rails to actually mount the Nucleus Nano controller. And for the handles, I actually resurrected these two from an older rig I had lying around. Now onto the matte box. I chose a Tilta lightweight matte box 4x4. I chose this one in particular because of the sun hood, because of the swing away arm, and most importantly because of the 2 filter trays. I wanted 2 filter trays so that I could add something to maybe cut light and then maybe a softening filter. For example, in this one, I'm using a Nisi IR Cut ND filter as well as a Tiffin Black Pro Mist quarter filter. For my monitor, I'm using a FeelWorld 5.5-inch monitor. It's a pretty impressive little monitor for its size. It has 2 HDMI ports, one in, one out. I have the external battery source. I have a swivel arm so I can adjust the view of it depending on whether it's a high or low angle shot. And it's a pretty bright little monitor too. I just keep the monitor on top of this top handle in the cold shoe mount. And as far as the HDMI cable goes, I use an Atimo stretchy HDMI cable. And to top off this gear kit, I actually got an Axoon HDMI transmitter from Gear. So this is actually a really cool piece of technology. This actually will transmit an HDMI signal to your cell phone so you can use it for a monitor. You can hand this to a cinematographer or a director on your set. It's really handy when working on bigger sets, and it's way more affordable. Currently, I'm mounting it on the side of my bracket for my monitor, and I'm just waiting for an HDMI cable that's a bit shorter so it'll reach over here to the monitor without being too long and in the way. To finish off this handheld kit, I got this shoulder pad from Convati on Amazon, and I think this was around $35 or so, and it actually has these rod holders on top already ready to go. The problem is the rods that I already have don't go past the battery. So I use the extenders from that variety kit that I was telling you I got from Adorama before, and I just extend it another 4 inches so I can use the shoulder pad. And for my current lens setup, I'm using an SLR-Magic 8mm cine lens. I'm using an SLR-Magic 17mm cine lens. That's the one that's on the camera now. An SLR-Magic 35mm cine lens. And I also picked up this nice little Super Takumar 50mm vintage lens on eBay for about 60 bucks. It's an M42 mount, so I had to buy an adapter to go to the Micro Four Thirds mount. It was about 20 bucks on Amazon as well, so not too bad, and it works like a charm. There's only one slightly unresolved part of this rig, and that would be the power for the follow focus motor. So right now what I'm doing is I'm just kind of plugging it into an external battery solution, and I rigged up something from some small rig parts that I had laying around with this clamp, and I would mount it underneath the camera setup kind of like this, but that wasn't really working. It was kind of getting in the way, so I'm currently looking for a new place for it. And the other option is the FeelWorld monitor actually has a DC 8-volt out, so I'm thinking about trying to plug a micro USB into that and seeing if that will actually power the motor as well, which could definitely be beneficial. So I've got a lot more to film with this rig, a lot more plans with this, especially here on YouTube, as well as a couple of short films that I'm working on. But this is my first time building a rig, so of course there's things that maybe I'm not laying out like I should, but I want to hear from people who have built a rig. Doesn't matter whether it's Blackmagic, Sony, Canon, whatever. Drop it in the comments below, because other people who are looking to build a rig could definitely benefit from information from people who are out there in the field using these rigs every single day on their jobs. So drop your comments below if you have any suggestions or things that you would even add to my rig. Make sure to hit that subscribe button with the post notifications on, and until next time, that's a wrap.